In the winter of 1975, the snow lay heavy on the streets of New York. The Long Island community of Amityville looked peaceful, quiet, the kind of town where nothing extraordinary should ever happen. But on Ocean Avenue stood a house that was anything but ordinary. With its tall frame, white siding, and distinctive quarter-moon windows that looked like watching eyes, the house at 112 Ocean Avenue had already become infamous. And what happened there would turn it into one of the most terrifying legends in American history. Just a year earlier, in November 1974, the home had been the scene of a shocking massacre. A young man named Ronald DeFeo Jr. murdered his entire family while they slept. His father, his mother, his two brothers, and his two sisters, all shot to death in their beds. The news shocked the nation. The idea that such horror could happen in a quiet family neighborhood was unthinkable. And yet, the house still stood, empty, silent, waiting. It wasn't long before the property went back on the market. For many buyers, the stigma was too much. Who would want to live in the house where such a nightmare unfolded? But in December 1975, George and Kathy Lutz, newly married, found themselves drawn to it. With 3 children and a desire to build a new life, the Lutz family saw the home as an opportunity. It was spacious, beautiful, and offered at a price far below market value. They convinced themselves that a tragic past didn't mean a cursed future. They signed the papers, moved in, and hoped for the best. From the very beginning, however, things were not right. On their first day, a Catholic priest, Father Ralph Pecoraro, came to bless the house. As he sprinkled holy water in one of the upstairs rooms, he heard a deep, harsh voice say 2 chilling words: "Get out." Startled and shaken, he left immediately and warned the family never to use that room. George and Kathy, skeptical but uneasy, brushed it off. They wanted to believe it was just imagination. But soon, the house began to show its true nature. Strange odors filled the air, an unexplainable stench of decay, sulfur, and something rotten. Doors slammed on their own. Windows opened with no wind. At night, the family heard footsteps echoing across the floors above them, even when no one was there. The children began to complain about an invisible friend they called Jody, who appeared in the form of a pig with glowing red eyes. George, a man who had once been easygoing, became irritable and violent. He grew obsessed with the fireplace, always feeling chilled to the bone no matter how hot the flames burned. Every morning at 3:15 a.m., the exact time of the DeFeo murders, he woke suddenly, compelled to wander the house in the darkness. His personality began to change, as though the house itself were seeping into his soul. Kathy had terrifying dreams of the murders, visions so vivid she could describe the exact way the victims had been killed. At times, she claimed to feel an unseen force touching her, pulling at her skin. Bruises and scratches appeared on her body without explanation. On one occasion, her face seemed to swell and age rapidly, as though she had transformed into an old woman, only to return to normal hours later. The children were not spared. They complained of voices whispering to them in their rooms. One night, Kathy found her daughter talking to Jody, staring at the window where glowing red eyes peered in from outside. When George rushed to look, he saw nothing. But later that night, he heard the sounds of heavy hooves stomping through the yard. As the days passed, the activity escalated. Black sludge oozed from the toilets and faucets. Crucifixes turned upside down. Cold spots appeared in random parts of the house. And always, at 3:15 a.m., the disturbances reached their peak. In desperation, the Lutz family contacted Father Pecoraro again. But every time he tries to return, something always stops him. In a phone call with Casey, he claimed to hear a lot of static noise and a deep voice ordering him to stay away. He started getting violently ill, convinced that the house itself was rejecting him. Meanwhile, George was sinking deeper into paranoia. He stopped going to work, spent his days chopping wood, staring into the flames, and snapping angrily at his wife and children. The house was breaking him down, piece by piece. On one particularly terrifying night, doors slammed throughout the house. The children screamed as their beds shook violently. Kathy levitated off her mattress. George claimed he saw a demonic figure with glowing eyes staring at him from the shadows. The family huddled together, overwhelmed with fear.